Dear students, while finalizing your conclusion, you should also think about an important feature, which is supposed to be the logical next step of the study, right? And it should be highlighted with proper, highlighting and properly showing the significance of the next step of your study. Because whatever was done as the study, research study, there should be some output and there should be some, actionable recommendations. And because particularly we are focusing on at least one problem in a research study. In social sciences, we start our studies with the highlighting of the problem, right? Research problem, which is the phrase which is used for highlighting the basis of the study. So that research problem, and now at this point, when you are concluding your study, you must think about the next step, that what's the logical next step, and how would you answer this logical next step, right? So in the conclusion section, you must be conveying the larger significance of your study, right? That what's the significance, what's the importance of your study, how did you think about your study now, right? And it's the opportunity to very briefly, very succinctly answer this question, so what, right? You completed your study, right? And you presented the report of the study, your results, your discussion, your conclusion. So what? Now, what is required to be carried out next? So that logical next step is really important. And that's the answer to the so what question. So in the conclusion chapter, when you want to give a course of action or actions, right, as the follow-up of your study, because so what is really the follow-up, right? So how would you follow up with your results? Now, what would you do, particularly when you are working on a research problem and you now want to convey that message to the policymakers, for example, or to the authorities who are responsible for any action to be taken as the result of your study, right? So that so what question is really important, and that must be given proper emphasis in the final section of your study, right? So in the context of how your study advances past research, right? When you want to answer this so what question, then you must provide the answers in the context of existing literature, right? That how the past researchers, how the previously carried out studies, and in that context, you would propose something, any actionable proposal, right? So that is to be given here. And you must identify that how a gap in literature has been filled with your study, right? So that filled gap, and now what, right? So your study filled a gap. Now what do you expect from the authorities, from the relevant sections, from the the relevant authorities or the community of practice, particularly when you are doing your research work on anything related to pedagogical implication, and you want to recommend something to your teaching community, then how would you recommend it? And how would you expect from the authorities, from the community of practice to follow your, recommendations, right? So that's something to be, studied. And the future directions are to be highlighted at this stage, right? That what future directions are to be met. And then the possible new ways are to be mentioned, okay? Because you completed your part of the job. You completely addressed a research problem. You came up with a new answer or a new meaning to your field of study. Now, what do you expect from the relevant sections, from the authorities, policymakers, or maybe the community of practice, right? So that's the point, that you, while finalizing your conclusion, you must include this answer to the question, so what, right? And that should be known to every researcher.